What happens when royal entitlement crashes into the world of late-night television and the cameras don't stop rolling? Tonight, we unpack the explosive interview that sent security guards racing to the stage, forced producers to cut to commercial, and ended with a prince storming off set in a moment that shattered his image before millions. The footage captured behind the scenes revealed a version of Prince Harry the royal family hoped the world would never see. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this became the most infamous disaster in talk show history. Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment because what you're about to hear has more twists than the average royal scandal ever should. The Jimmy Kimmel live studio buzzed with its usual pre-show excitement. Crew members were doing final checks on lights and cameras, but tonight had a different kind of energy. Prince Harry was the headline guest, there to promote his latest charity project. The audience had been told to expect the charismatic, self-aware royal they'd grown fond of the same. Harry, who spoke openly about mental health and family struggles in past interviews. Jimmy Kimmel sat behind his desk, scanning over his notes one last time. The producers had planned a lighthearted, respectful chat, something promotional, not confrontational. Just enough depth to make it interesting for viewers. No one expected what was about to unfold, one of the most uncomfortable and chaotic moments in late-night television history. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Prince Harry, Jimmy said with his usual upbeat flair as the crowd erupted in cheers. Harry stepped onto the stage confidently, smiling and waving, but something felt off. His grin looked forced, and a tension in his posture was immediately noticeable. As he took his seat, there was a subtle arrogance in his body language that threw Jimmy slightly. "Great to have you back on the show," Jimmy said, trying to ease into his usual friendly rhythm. "Well, I suppose it's great for you," Harry replied with a dry smirk. "I imagine having real royalty on your little show does wonders for your ratings." The audience chuckled nervously, unsure whether this was dry British humor or something more biting. Jimmy, ever the professional, tried to steer things back to safer ground. "So tell us about your new foundation. I hear it focuses on mental health support for veterans." But Harry leaned back, arms crossed, his tone growing colder. "You hear that, do you? Fascinating. Because from where I stand, most Americans don't understand a thing about genuine service or sacrifice. You sit here in your cozy studio making jokes, while actual heroes are out there suffering in silence." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Jimmy's trademark smile faltered for a split second, but he pushed forward. "That's exactly why your work is so important, to bring awareness to those struggles." But Harry wasn't letting go. "My work is important," he repeated, placing strong emphasis on the word, "because I've actually served. Unlike most of the people in this room who haven't risked anything more serious than telling a bad joke." A hush fell over the audience as the realization sunk in. This wasn't the interview anyone had expected. Jimmy glanced to the side, looking for guidance from his producers. They signaled for him to continue. Trying to salvage the moment, Jimmy asked, "Can you tell us more about the programs you're launching? Would they even care?" Harry snapped. "Or are they just here for the novelty of watching a prince on television? Tell me something, Jimmy, do you really care about veterans? Or are you just using me to boost your own brand?" His words landed like a punch, heavy and impossible to ignore. Jimmy had handled his share of challenging guests, but never one who attacked him so directly. "I think we all want to support our veterans," Jimmy answered calmly, but Harry wasn't finished. "That's the kind of hollow answer I expect from Hollywood, just empty words, no real meaning. You people repulse me with your fake concern and your rehearsed sympathy. You don't know what real struggle looks like, Harry." Jimmy glanced at his producers and said, "Maybe we should take a quick break." But Harry wasn't backing down. He leaned in, voice sharpening. "Oh, am I making you uncomfortable? Good. Maybe for once in your sheltered life, you'll get a glimpse of the discomfort regular people face every day, while you sit up here making millions telling jokes." The studio fell into a thick silence. Laughter and applause disappeared, replaced by a heavy unease that seemed to settle over everyone. The camera crew kept rolling, unsure of whether they should stop, while producers hesitated. debating if they needed to cut to commercial immediately. Jimmy gave it another shot. Look, I respect your passion, but maybe we could focus on the positive. Change you're trying to create? Positive change? Harry got to his feet, suddenly looming over Jimmy, who remained seated. You want to talk about positive change? Let's talk about the damage people like you cause. You profit from entertainment while the world falls apart. Security by the stage began to inch forward, picking up on how far things had gone off script. The audience sat frozen, watching what had started as a cheerful segment spiral into something much more intense and confrontational. I don't think that's fair, Jimmy said, his voice finally gaining some edge. We've featured veterans on this show. We've raised money for military charities. We try to use our platform the right way. Responsible? Harry scoffed, the sound sharp and humorless. You call this sideshow responsible? Cracking jokes about real suffering, pretending it's entertainment? You're part of the problem, Jimmy. You help keep people distracted so they don't see the real issues. The interview was clearly collapsing, and the tension in the room was undeniable. Jimmy shot another look toward his team, but Harry wasn't done yet. Do you know what your real problem is, Jimmy? Harry's voice got louder as he started pacing behind the guest chair. You think hosting a talk show gives you the right to question me. But let me remind you, I'm royalty. I was born into a life you'll never touch, no matter how many stars you flatter or jokes you tell. The audience remained in stunned silence as Harry's anger poured out. Jimmy worked to stay calm, but it was obvious to everyone that he was deeply uncomfortable. Harry, I think you're misunderstanding the whole point of this interview, Jimmy said carefully. We brought you on to talk about your charity work, not to start a fight. Misunderstanding? Harry spun around and glared at him. The only misunderstanding here is thinking I'd sit here like some performing monkey for you and your viewers. I'm not your entertainment. Then why are you here? Jimmy asked, his patience slipping. Because I was told this was a serious platform, Harry shot back. But it turns out I walked into a circus with a clown pretending to care while tossing me fluff questions. The words hit hard. Jimmy had made a name for himself by being charming and easygoing. Now, having someone insult him on his own stage, in front of a live audience, cut deep. You're being really disrespectful, Jimmy said firmly. Not just to me, but to everyone here who came to support you. Support me? Harry said with a bitter laugh. These people don't support me. They support the version of me your media has invented. The smiling prince who waves politely, not the real me who has thoughts, principles, and boundaries. Maybe. The problem isn't everyone else, Jimmy replied, his voice sharper now. Maybe the problem is your attitude. Those words lingered in the air like a spark. Harry's face turned red with fury. For a moment, it looked like he might storm off stage. Instead, he stepped in closer to Jimmy's desk, encroaching on the host's personal space in a way that instantly unsettled the entire studio. Did you just imply I have an attitude problem? Harry's voice dropped to a dangerously low tone, almost a whisper. Do you have any idea what I've been through? What my own family put me through? What the media has done to my life? I know you've had your struggles, Jimmy said, his voice calm as he tried to de-escalate the moment without backing down. But that doesn't give you the right to come on my show and attack everyone here. Attack? Harry suddenly exploded. You think this is an attack? This is me finally telling the truth, something I haven't been allowed to do in years. I'm done playing the game you and every other media leech expect me to play. People in the audience started shifting in their seats, visibly uncomfortable. Some near the exits began glancing toward the doors. Security moved closer to the stage, clearly anticipating that things might turn physical. You know what? Jimmy stood up from behind his desk, no longer trying to mask his frustration. I've had enough. I've treated you with nothing but respect since you got here. And all you've done is insult me, my show, and everyone watching. Respect? Harry came around the desk, now close enough to Jimmy to touch him. You think this ridiculous? Excuse for an interview is respectful? You dragged me out here to entertain, like I'm some trained animal. And now, because I won't play along, suddenly I'm the problem? I invited you to talk about your charity work, Jimmy said, firmly holding his ground despite how close Harry was. But instead, you've turned this into some kind of angry rant, attacking everyone but yourself. Harry's face twisted in anger. You think this is therapy? You want to know what therapy is, Jimmy? Therapy is what you need when your family sells your private life to the media. Therapy is what you need when your friends betray you for a check. Therapy is what you need when you realize everyone around you is fake. Maybe, Jimmy said quietly, therapy is also what you need when you're unable to have a normal conversation without lashing out at everyone in the room. The words hit Harry like a slap, his jaw clenched. His fists curled tightly at his sides. For a chilling moment, it looked like he might actually strike Jimmy. Security guards leaned in, poised to intervene if necessary. How dare you? Harry whispered, voice shaking with fury. How dare you try to psychoanalyze me on national television? You're not qualified to talk about my mental health. And you're not qualified to come on this show and treat people like dirt, Jimmy shot back. I don't care if you're royalty or just another guest basic human. Decency still matters. Basic human decency? Harry nearly spat the words. Where was that decency when the press chased my mother to her death? Where was it when my own family betrayed me? Where was it when people like you made money off our suffering? I never profited off your pain, Jimmy said firmly. I've always supported you and your family even in my comedy. Support? Harry grabbed the edge of the desk, leaning in until their faces were inches apart. You think turning my family into a joke is support? You think turning tragedy into punchlines helps anyone? The room was absolutely silent, aside from the quiet whir of the cameras still recording. Everyone present knew they were witnessing something raw and unprecedented. Total collapse of the wall between public image and private pain. I think, Jimmy said slowly, you need to take a breath and step back before this gets even worse. Worse? Harry let out a sharp, bitter laugh. It can't get worse than this. Sitting here pretending to be polite with people who've made a living off ridiculing everything I care about. Then go, Jimmy said, voice level. If it's that unbearable for you, just leave. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Harry stared at Jimmy, chest heaving, every muscle in his body tense. The audience sat frozen, waiting to see what would happen next. Leave? Harry echoed the word, stunned, as if it were some absurd suggestion. You think I'm going to run away just because this conversation makes you uncomfortable? I think, Jimmy said, his tone unwavering in the chaos, that whatever point you were trying to make, you've already made it. My point? Harry finally stepped back, but his stance was still combative. The storm in him had not passed. Let me be clear, all of this is a facade. The show, this interview, your supposed care for veterans, and even your alleged respect for me, it's all an act, crafted to earn you ratings and profit. Jimmy raised his hand toward Harry and responded, And what about your performance? Is this really you? Someone incapable of having a civil conversation without throwing insults at everyone around. Harry's expression hardened into a sneer. This is more real than anything you've ever broadcast. This is what it looks like when someone refuses to play along with your charade. My charade? Jimmy's disbelief was obvious. You mean the part where I ask you about your charity work, and you respond by launching personal attacks? That's the game you're talking about. Harry didn't hesitate. The game where you pretend we're friends while the cameras are rolling, then laugh behind my back the minute I'm gone. The one where you act concerned about real issues but are really chasing ratings. Jimmy turned to the camera and addressed the live audience. To everyone watching, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've never experienced anything like this. This behavior isn't normal for any guest. Don't speak about me like I'm not here, Harry snapped, stepping in front of the camera to block Jimmy's view. If you have something to say it to my face. I've been saying it to your face this entire time, Jimmy shot back. From the moment you sat down, you've been rude, antagonistic, and entirely inappropriate. Inappropriate? Harry's, voice escalated into a near shout. You want to talk about inappropriate? Try making money off people's suffering. Try turning serious problems into punchlines. Try inviting someone here under false pretenses. False pretenses? Jimmy repeated. Sharply. You knew exactly what we'd be discussing. You agreed to come and speak about your charity. I agreed thinking I'd be treated with dignity, not interrogated by someone who's never done anything meaningful. Harry snapped. That stung. Jimmy's composure began to crack. Never done anything meaningful, he repeated. I've spent decades entertaining people, raised millions for good causes, brought smiles to families when they needed them most. And what have you done? Complain about your privilege? The crowd erupted with unexpected applause. Rallying behind Jimmy's firm response, Harry spun toward the audience, his face red with fury. Don't you dare clap for him, he shouted. He just disrespected a royal on live television. That would be treason in a real country? This is America. Someone shouted from the crowd. We don't do kings here. That comment seemed to shake something in Harry. He started pacing, each step more erratic than the last. You may not have kings, but you worship celebrities. You kneel to fame and fortune, ignoring those who truly serve, who truly sacrifice. Jimmy, trying one last time to bring calm, gently said, Harry, please, sit down, take a breath. Let's reset. We can start over. Harry let out a bitter laugh. There's no starting over from this. You've shown me who you are, Jimmy. You've exposed your real self. And what kind of person is that? Jimmy asked, weary and fed up. The kind who fakes humility while secretly thinking he's above everyone. The kind who built his career mocking those who can't fight back. The kind who smiles to your face and stabs you when the lights go down. You're describing yourself? Jimmy replied quietly, and the words rang out with heavy finality. Harry stopped in his tracks. For a moment, all the rage drained from his face. A flicker of recognition, or maybe guilt, flashed through his eyes. How dare you? He said, almost inaudibly, the venom gone from his voice. I dare, Jimmy said firmly, because someone had to speak the truth. You came on here looking for a fight. You lashed out at me, my team, and this audience, not because of anything we did, but because you're angry at the world. You've been entitled, combative, and disrespectful since the start.